to Transformational Thinkers. Today, we dive into the future of live podcasting and how small-town innovation can change the economics for creators everywhere. My guest, Jeff Revilla, is the visionary behind the Infinite Seat Theater, a revolutionary approach that blends intimate, live podcast experiences with unlimited virtual reach. In this conversation, Jeff shares the inspiration behind the Infinite Seat model, reveals why most podcasters never monetize using traditional ad-supported systems, and explains how live events can build deeper connections, foster vibrant communities, and return real value to creators from day one. Whether you're a seasoned host or just launching your show, get ready to rethink what's possible for your podcast, live, local, and infinitely scalable. Hi there, Jeff. I'm so excited to have you join me today on Transformational Thinkers.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. We're going to have a great conversation coming up.
We certainly are. Jeff, you have such an interesting story, and I know that many of my listeners will be meeting you for the first time. And when you take a step back and look at the creator economy, what problem occurred to you that you needed to solve? And then separately, how did that spark the idea within you for an infinite seat theater?
I think if I go back to the movie Moneyball, which was a baseball movie about acquiring the best players at the best prices so you could win championships. I kind of think about that mentality when I learned about server logs from podcast hosts. So Podbean every month publishes how many podcasters get thousands of downloads per month on their first episode. And I started thinking, okay, only really 10% of podcasts are getting over 1,000 downloads. So those 10% of people, they're going to start to qualify for ads. And podcasters are typically chasing this carrot of, I'm going to create a show, I'm going to build an audience, and I'm going to read ads to people. But the way ads are sold, they're sold in CPM or cost per 1,000 downloads. So right off the bat, you learn that 90% of podcasters aren't ever going to qualify to make money reading ads. So that Moneyball mentality of, okay, that doesn't work. That idea, that business model that we're chasing doesn't work for most podcasters. So how do we make something different? How do we build something that's going to work for more people? And that's kind of the mentality that kicked off, like, how do I do this? How do we do this at small levels in small towns and scale it across the country?
I love the creativity there as well. And I love that you're thinking about not just big metro areas, but you're thinking about it could be the smallest town that has 100 people that lives in that town. And it could be an old theater that has been reimagined that becomes your stage, correct?
Yeah, the initial version of this theater was I wanted to just go places and set my podcast up and perform live for people. The initial concept fit in the back seat of my car. So I could take speakers, I could take my little podium, I could take mic stands and a mixer, and I could go set that up at a park, at a friend's party, in a basement, in a backyard. And that was really theater anywhere, that it could be performed in any small town. It could be any small coffee shop, any small bar or restaurant. And it was an idea of making podcasting in the community, getting outside of that home studio, getting outside of that basement recording area, and going out into the world and experiencing life, experiencing moments with people in your community who think like you, talk like you, like the same topics that you're talking about, and build something special, build something bigger than what it could be. And that was the original concept. So you're right. This could happen in any small town, anywhere. And that's the purpose. That's the beauty of this model, is it's not just reliant on already established spaces. You can create your own space and start thinking about podcasting a little bit differently and start monetization from day one. And that's the big difference between what I'm trying to teach people And what most people are trying to chase is, I'm going to do ads. I want to read ads on my podcast and I'll make all kinds of Joe Rogan money. That's not going to happen for most people. But I think I have a solution that's a much better alternative for 90% of all podcasters.
Right. And so let's double click on infinite seat podcasting. What that means to the podcaster and how that can change the economics of the game for them.
Yeah, I'm a very DIY guy. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, skateboarding, punk rock. I'm a very counterculture guy. So in my mind, these things need to be efficient and scalable. I'm a big bootstrapper. I bootstrapped the theater that I ended up putting together for maybe $5,000, $6,000 total was the initial concept. And what we're thinking of is, how do we take all these vacant places in small towns across America? A lot of towns have been gutted over the years by malls, by Amazon, e-commerce. All these things have really decimated small town America. But that means there's opportunity there. There's a lot of vacant properties. There's a lot of things you can do in those towns where there's already population centered around that area, but you can get cheap real estate, cheap storefronts. A space that I'm talking is 1,600 to 2,000 square feet, where you can build a 40-seat theater and get started for maybe under $1,000 a month would be your entire expense. And what we want to do with that is, how do we make something that's small, tiny, and efficient scale well beyond the four walls of that building? And we do that with the Infinite Seat Theater. We have a stage, we have cameras surrounding that stage, we have 40 people in the audience. But our shows aren't limited to those 40 seats in that theater. We actually have the same capacity as Madison Square Garden. 20,000 people could watch our little show in a little theater with 40 people, and that ability to scale with that small overhead to infinite, as many seats as we could sell, is the potential that we're talking about when we talk about these small little quote unquote black box theaters that really are set up to do anything you want to do and broadcast that out to the world, to infinite seats. You're not bound by the physical structure of the building.
In that scenario, if you had someone that, let's say, couldn't attract 10 or 20,000 people, let's say it's someone that might attract 20 people, and let's say a few of them are in person and some of them are virtual. How does that change the economics for the podcaster?
For my business model, it doesn't change it at all. Tickets in are tickets in. And what we're trying to do is build something, establish something with a podcaster. Most people's first shows are 5 or 10 tickets, and that's okay. Those are shows that we'll perform on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. As we do 3 shows, 4 shows, 5 shows, we start to see that audience grow to 15, 20, 25 people. And what we want to do is really perform something that people will talk about, something that will draw people back to the next time, something that they can document, they can take photos, videos, they're going to get clips of, to really build their audience for the next time, for the 10th show, for the 20th show. We're in this for the long haul. I know that a business starting out, a podcast that brings in 5 people, but then we see growth for the second episode that's 15. That's somebody I want to also invest time with, because as they grow, that helps the theater, and it also helps them based the way the business model works. It's like this rising tide lifts all ships. If whether you sell tickets in person or virtual, it doesn't matter. The end result is the podcaster still takes home half of the door.
If the podcaster operates virtually all the time, is that still something that you can work with?
Yeah, we do events where we have virtual hosts. A lot of times it's a mixed ticket where there'll be some people in the theater, there'll be some virtual attendees, some virtual hosts, and we're kind of doing this mixed bag. I tend to think of that scenario, if you've ever watched the Star Trek movies, they have that one room where they beam people up and down. It's kind of like a portal from the ship to the planet that they want to go to. And that's what this stage becomes. This stage becomes like that room on Star Trek where you're on the stage hosting in front of people in the audience. The people at home are watching. The people at home are leaving comments. If I want to pop them up on screen, they can come be part of the stage. The people in the audience, we have microphones that we pass around and cameras on the audience. They can ask questions. Now they're asking the people on the stage. Now they're all performing to the virtual audience. That stage really becomes this portal. It's the center of the universe to everybody, to people in front of you and the virtual people. And that concept is so much bigger than whether just the host is in the audience or on stage, or if it's a guest coming up on stage, virtual or physical. The way that it all comes together, it's so much bigger than just a live performance.
That's quite fascinating. And so, Jeff, how did people respond to you when you first started talking about the infinite seat theater?
I thought about this since about 2017, and around 2020, I really started to ramp it up. I got to present this idea at PodFest, and the reaction was very positive. And it's weird that most mid-level and lower-level podcasters haven't even thought about this. I do meetups once a month where I buy food and drinks for all the local podcasters, and so many of them come in never even thinking about performing a podcast as a live event. But then once they hear the idea, once they see what the other types of shows that we've done, you see light bulbs start to go off in the audience. You see them starting to think, okay, well, I'm an author. I want to interview another author who I've really been reading a lot of their work. And can we do a show like that and then do Q&A with the audience? Or I have slides. I want to present and talk about slides and make a visual medium. Yes, you get to see people light up and start to think about this in the same way I've been thinking about it for 7 years. I'm trying to get people to catch up with me. And when I hear those ideas, I hear things I haven't even thought of whenever people come in and they're like, okay, can I also do this? Can I do that? And the ideas just keep growing and stemming from this little concept of this little theater.
So from people that are currently leaning in to the opportunity of a live podcast event and an infinite seat theater to expand their reach, what are the typical profiles of those podcasters? Who would their avatar be?
Oh my goodness. We've had so many different types of shows. There really isn't a single avatar. There's an avatar maybe per show. We've had some paranormal shows. We've had some other, not paranormal, but ghost stories, like spooky shows. We've had sports podcasts. We've had trivia shows. We've had news shows. We've had political shows. And so the avatar is really unique for that genre. And so when we try to put our ads together and the packages together, or how are we going to position this show, we do think about the avatar for that person. But one of the paranormal shows, the demographic was like 50 plus. And they had a full catering. They had a brunch they brought in. They had meals for everybody, like barbecue. It was pretty incredible. But the average age was 50 plus. That was a different type of targeting than the Ghost Story, which is the Crips and Corks podcast. They're a younger audience, the 20s, 30s. They pair a bottle of wine with their stories. So when they tell a story, they have a wine that accompanies it. So that's a younger demographic, even though one's kind of paranormal and one's ghost. Those two together span 20 to 70 years old. So there isn't really just one. It's very specific based on the type of show that's performing, and even the host of that show, their age can kind of fluctuate who they draw and pull from.
How does live podcasting fundamentally change the relationship between creators and their audiences?
This is a shock to me, and I knew there was a different connection. I built this with the idea that when you listen to a podcast, you feel like you're sitting in the room with that show. Maybe you're off in the corner and you're eavesdropping on this conversation. In my theater, it's only 40 seats. It's only 3 rows deep. When the lights go out, the whole room is black except for that stage. So you get pulled into that stage. And what happens is we've really recreated that feeling of sitting in the room with the podcaster. So now all those times you've listened to that show and felt like you were sitting in a room, there's this surreal experience when you're actually in the room with the podcast. So it changes the dynamic right then and there. But the part that we didn't expect is how much that changes. Because after these shows, I really have trouble clearing out the theater. People will stick around and talk and thank the host and share stories about how their podcast has changed them for an hour and a half. It takes me 90 minutes to just, hey, come on, guys, I got to do the garbage and go home. But there's such a connection being made that people really don't want to leave. They've been given this gift, this shared experience, and they are all in. They want to stay, talk to the host, they come up on stage, they take pictures together. Sometimes they have merchandise, they'll sign the merchandise. But if the show is 90 minutes, it's a good 90 minutes before I clear out the theater. It's always about as long as the show. The people are sticking around.
That is incredibly impressive. After starting this, what has surprised you most after creators began using the platform?
Yeah, certainly the people sticking around has been a big thing. But what also was a nice change is the credibility that this adds to a podcast. When somebody says, hey, I have a podcast, maybe you tell your family at Thanksgiving and they're like, oh, that's nice. That's cute. I've heard about podcasts before. And maybe you secretly pull up their phone and secretly subscribe them to your podcast and you don't even tell them. Well, what happens though is that while your family and friends understand, okay, he produces a podcast, that's great. When you say, hey, June 12th, that's my birthday. June 12th, I'm going to be live on the main stage at the Paduti Podcast Theater in downtown Tarentum. We're performing our show live. It's going to be an hour and a half extravaganza. We're going to have drinks and food. All of a sudden, the credibility of your show just went through the roof. It went from something you did in your home studio or your basement, or maybe you have a little studio outside the house, to something that's now on a stage, on a main stage. And that changes the way your friends and family see your podcast. It's not just something you do that's, oh, that's cute. It's now a thing, and it's a tangible thing that people understand. You're going to be commanding presence from a stage. People understand and respect that way more than they understand and respect what it takes to create a podcast. They just think, oh, you record something and release a file. That's all it is. It's silly. But to do it live, that really adds strength and credibility to what you've been building.
That is a great point. Jeff, how are you growing your company while you're educating the market about what you're doing? Because it is so different.
It is different. And I'm not only training podcasters that, hey, this is a form of entertainment you can do, but we're also training the public. Hey, you want to do something on a Friday night that's $5 or $10? It's not going to break the bank. You're going to have a good time. So we are attacking it from two different ways. And the one thing that's really helped over the last year is meetups, is events and meetups where I'm not focused on presenting a podcast from the stage in a live environment. I'm interested in meeting podcasters and showing them what's possible. So once a month, I buy food and drinks. So we mentioned in the Pittsburgh area, we have a Pittsburgh podcast meetup. And I invite usually 15, 20 podcasters show up. And my goal is to spin off 2 or 3 of them into book shows. So, I might be spending $100 on pizza, but I might be bringing in 3 acts that I can start to work with and build up momentum for them. That has been a big help, is just connecting with the community, meeting people who I can convince to get up on stage and do a show. And that's the part I've been focusing on a lot to really grow the business over the last year.
Mm-hmm. And do you see yourself expanding out to other markets, doing the same thing?
Yeah. In fact, I'm not sure when this will air, but this Sunday coming up, there's another meetup that happens about a half an hour from us. And we've merged our 2 events so that we can do 2 events in 2 different locations and build a bigger audience. So now we have 2 of us. Now, if we can find somebody, kind of triangulate our locations, now we can start to build this and steamroll this and get things going. And really partnering with people, finding podcasters, networking. You've been just somebody referring me. You've referred me very generously to somebody. And those kind of referrals are the gold standard of podcasting. If I'm producing something that somebody will help me share my message, that's the biggest reward in doing all of this. And that's the way we've been growing, is word of mouth, emails, ads, those little things. Do all the basics. Be good at the basics.
Absolutely. What you're doing in replicating your meetup, that is going to pay dividends tremendously.
I'm very excited. There's a great guy. He does the Pittsburgh Creators Meetup, and I do the Pittsburgh Podcast Meetup. So now we're creators and podcasters meeting up. Maybe some of the podcasters that I bring, they might find some interesting guests. And some of those interesting creators, may find podcasts they want to go on. This could be the symbiotic relationship where creators and podcasters who are both very independent creators are going to be in one room for about 3 hours on Sunday.
Absolutely. Jeff, what emotional moment have you witnessed from a creator using your platform that made you realize this really is making a difference?
I have a great show coming up. Tamara nailed it, Motherhood podcast. And she did her first show, I think about 3 months ago, end of last year. And it was a season 1 wrap-up party. And she came so prepared. A lot of these events do catering. So there's a whole food element that happens here. But she came in, she utilized every possible function of this theater. She had multimedia, she had video, she had music, she had pre-recorded interviews. She commanded the stage for 90 minutes to do her season 1 wrap party and left with this amazing asset of this show, which she knocked out of the park. But the connection she made, she launched her book. So she had a book release party, had a pre-sale, was selling merch at the front end. That show blew my mind. And she's coming back in again in April. And a great podcast, incredibly talented, knows her material. And I just can't wait to see her come back and do a second version of this. This will be her season 2 wrap party coming up.
That is a phenomenal win and success story. Those stories, if you can show the visuals of the people and the energy in the room, that is so powerful to someone that is just trying to consider getting their head around an infinite seat theater and being in a live venue.
I've realized that exactly what you're saying. And as soon as you walk into the theater, there's the Hall of Fame. It's about 8 feet, 3 rows high of acrylic 8x11s where I have pictures of everybody who's been up on stage over the last year. So as soon as you come in, there's this history of the theater, and you're seeing, we've had TV shows filmed there, small movies, short films. We've had the podcast that I've already mentioned. We've had speakers from Canada come down. I've had a magician from Buffalo. All those pictures are up on as soon as you walk in, this social proof, this, hey, other people are doing it. I think you could do it too.
Absolutely. It's a very, very powerful thing. If someone launches a podcast today, what should they do differently than creators did 5 years ago?
Yeah, the thing I talk about is I want people to start with monetization. And we never did that 5-10 years ago. We're going to launch a show. We're going to release a show. We always wanted to build the audience especially for entertainment podcasts. There's other reasons to create a podcast. You might do it you have a business for consulting and you're just looking to get new clients. But for most people, I think most people go into podcasting, some sort of entertainment, some sort of way to grow an audience to a point where you can monetize it through ads. I flip that. I really want people to think about monetization from the start. And that's something that we train about. Just ticket sales is the easiest goal. Can you make money on your very first show with tickets? And with 100% success rate, I can tell you, yes, you can walk out of a theater with $20 in your pocket, maybe $50. It's going to happen when you do live podcasting. And you think, oh, $20, $50. Well, what good is that? It's worth the experience. It's going to cover your expenses for a month. So if you did one live show a month, you're hosting for podcasting, your website hosting, all of a sudden, all that burden of I got to come up with money to pay these bills, you're zero washed out. You've covered your expenses. Think of it as a starting point. But if you get to sell 20 tickets at $10, you're at $200. You do that once a month. All of a sudden, now you're making $2,500 a year just from doing a show a month. Not too bad. But if you start with that, and even though it doesn't sound like a lot, then we start to layer things on. So for that $10 ticket, some people offer a BYOB ticket. Right then and there, you can add $5. And now you're at $15 a ticket. Some people do VIP meet and greet. So if you want to come in early, meet the host, now you can add another $10, $20 to that ticket. What we start with is, hey, everything you do has value. Podcasting, the time that you're putting into it, the research that you're putting into it, the cost that you have, these things all have value. Let's start with returning that value back to the audience and let them exchange dollars for that value. So the ticketing, Then we have merchandise. We have merch tables available for people to set up and sell their own merch. A lot of people bring in buttons or pins, like limited edition buttons commemorating the event. So they'll do custom buttons and then they'll sell them for $5 or so, maybe a 3-pack for $5. They do show posters and they sign them for a couple bucks. Now we're layering on. They have t-shirts, right? Hats. All these things start to come in. But then we start looking at this. Okay, I'm doing an event. I got 40 people coming into a theater. I got another 30 people watching online. I'm building something. I'm building something special. That's the type of thing that advertisers start to look at. So now that you're having an event, you're having this social gathering, you're bringing people out of the house into the theater, already you're doing something that's going to attract advertisers. So now that you've built that foundation, maybe you want to sell a spot on the show poster or on the ticket. You could sell advertising on the ticket. You want to put a sign up on the TV in the middle of the stage, you could sell a sponsor package. Then once you get the recorded back, now you can tease that package up by releasing an ad in the MP3 for the podcast. All these things can build up if we start backwards. And instead of building an audience to then do ads, let's just start with, these are the things we can do right now that people pay money for. They pay $5, $10, $15. And that's a start. That's somewhere to start. And as you start to fill up this theater, you'll go on, and I hope you do. I hope you go to a 100-seat theater, a 200-seat theater. Keep filling up theaters bigger and bigger. Let us be that stepping stone between your home office and a 650-seat theater.
That is so compelling. You have to talk about what the layers are in a compelling marketing plan around a live event for people to actually, for it to be real for them. I think it's super powerful for you to give that kind of insight into the art of what's possible.
Yeah, I start small. I don't usually dump all that out on people, but as I build up the event landing page, I show them the proof of the page. Okay, here's how your tickets are going to be. If you have a video, give me a video. I'll add the video to the page. Hey, by the way, other podcasters who do this, some of them have an adult audience, and some of their audiences ask, hey, can I have a beverage of my choice there? And so then I'll introduce the BYOB ticket. So yeah, it benefits you, $5. Well, you can add it on. You can enjoy the beverage of your choice. You know, like the beverages we sell, you can bring your own. So now we made a $10 ticket, $15. We just increased the ticket price by 50%. So I slowly introduce those instead of just snowballing them, kind of like stair-step them into it. That's why I usually say about 6 weeks is the window we want, because that gives me time to build the page, start promotion. Then I can introduce, oh, you want to do BYOB? Oh, you got some merch? Why don't we pre-sell some merch packs? So now we're adding on the merch packs. You want to do a VIP meet and greet? We can add on a special bonus ticket. We can do all these other little things because we have that time and we allocate that time between now and 6 weeks till the show.
Jeff, what technologies or trends are you watching closely that could transform the creator audience engagement?
While I've been talking about this stuff for a while, sometimes I feel like I'm by myself. I know that comedians and actors and actresses who have podcasts are filling arenas. And I know there's a ton of podcasters who only record in their home studio, their home basement. And I'm kind of here in the middle, like, hey, small independent podcasters, I think we can do something bigger. While I've been talking about this for a while and people are starting to gravitate to it, 2 weeks ago, I just heard Gary Vee do a whole rant about the future. And he says, as we get closer to 2050, the world's going to look a lot more like 1850. People want the real life. They want in-person events. They want to, whatever they do in real life will become the online life. People are kind of revolting from this AI slop. Everything's curated and crafted to be perfect and beautiful. People want real experiences again. They want to feel real things, real emotions, and be in the world. I just heard Matthew Passy, a big Lipson guy, longtime podcaster. He's talking about live events. I'm doing this thing. I got a book coming out. All this is happening. And I really think that this model really is the future of podcasting. We know that something has to change. Podcasters want opportunity. They want to be rewarded for their work. They want to stay motivated, or else they're going to do 100 shows for 2 years and realize, okay, I've been doing this for 2 years. I might get 500 downloads per episode, but that's not enough to do anything with. Why am I doing this? And that burnout is real. But if you had that 500 downloads and you start looking at, okay, what if I just had 20 people in my theater and 20 people paid just for a $5 ticket? Well, that's $100 divided by half. You make $50. Those 20 people are more valuable than 500. That's actually 3,500 people of downloads to equal 20 people in the audience. So to most 90% of podcasters, a live event with 20 people is a lot more accessible than 3,000 downloads on an MP3 file. So I'm showing people the value of in real life attendees is 250 times greater than digital downloads. So why are we chasing these digital downloads when we should be building a community with people right in front of us?
I do find it incredibly compelling that these major thinkers are seeing that an in-person live option in life is back center stage.
I keep thinking about like all those seeds I've been planting over years. I've been talking about this for a while. The theater's 2 years old, and then at the end of April. And these things I'm so passionate about. I really love live podcasting. That, like I said, that counterculture element of creating something that you own from start to finish. I don't have to answer to corporations. I don't have to answer to a boss. I can create something and it's mine. I own it wholeheartedly. I can give it out to the world. That idea is so powerful to me. And I'm so passionate about inspiring other people to do this that now that I'm starting to see some of these seeds sprout a little bit and hear other people talk about it, one, it's like a relief because I thought maybe I might be going crazy if this is all I talk about. But now other people are talking about it. Live events are becoming a thing. I do a podcast about live podcasting. Every week I do 2 shows and I have 6 stories every week about people doing live podcasts on stages around the world. I have 60 some backlog stories and we've done 60 episodes. I have an example for every possible scenario that you could do a live podcast on. And the amount of times you see conferences and events that the main attraction is a podcast, it's unbelievable how much podcasting has infiltrated conferences and events as the main form of entertainment. So this is happening. And small spaces like this are kind of that stepping stone. Like, how do you go from your basement to a stage at a conference? Well, you better practice, right? You better get on some small stages around the world and start practicing so that you can make that jump.
Yes, absolutely. I do know I have friends that have had podcasts that have gone to a major conference to literally do a crash recording of as many people as they possibly could and filled an entire season in 2 days. I know this is happening. It may be happening in different shades of gray than what you're doing, but what you're doing has a very compelling idea behind it where if a podcaster can just take a step back and look at what the art of the possible is on the economics, they might lean into it more. Hearing those success stories that you're sharing on your podcast about live podcasting, I think is perfect because that's going to help people identify, oh, there's someone that's just like me and I can go do that. And it's going to work for me and it's going to help cover what I'm already doing in my marketing. Jeff, I'd like to switch gears a little bit from the perspective of entrepreneurship usually involves personal transformation. How has building this concept changed you as a leader?
Things happen when you're a business owner. Business ownership can be the most stressful thing you ever do. And sometimes I go from, I don't know why I'm doing this. Why did I build this? I'm such a failure. It's not going to work. To the next thought I have is, oh my goodness, that worked out really well. I can't believe we're going to do this. And sometimes it's in the same day. Sometimes it's in the same hour that you have these the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So really leveling out and managing those expectations. just because something goes unbelievably wrong, you got to let those things bounce off you. Just because something goes unbelievably right and it's a windfall, you may walk away with covering your expenses with the one event for a month. Those are highest of highs and lowest of lows. You kind of just have to baseline through this, because the emotional roller coaster is something that you really have to learn to manage. The bills come due, and then all these other things happen. But then 2 weeks later, you have this massive show that covers your expenses for a month and a half. And you're like, oh, I'm like Einstein of podcasting. And then all of a sudden taxes are due. And you're like, whoopsie. So really baselining those expectations when you own a business really helps make you a stronger person all around. Things could be collapsing around me and I'm steady as I go. I understand that this is a temporary situation, but I can pivot. I can change direction. I can figure out what went wrong and correct and learn from it. So that kind of made me more stable by having these emotions at those early stages, especially 2 years ago. All you're doing is putting money into this before you can even open the front door. Those times are tough, but you weather through it. You keep your plan and you build upon it. And it does mellow out over time, but you have to know your vision and be steady. Steady as she goes, they say.
And each interval, let's say it's month or quarter, increasing what you're doing is a good indicator that things are heading in the right direction.
Day by day, those snapshots aren't that reliable, but quarter over quarter, year over year, now I have some data. Things are different, right? Things really mellow out.
That's really good. Jeff, what advice would you give to founders that want to build products that truly serve creators rather than just monetize them?
Find a proof of concept. Whatever you're thinking of deploying, figure out what's the most, what they call it, the minimal viable product. That's what I'm looking for. How can I bring this to market without taking too much risk on? Because there are concepts of what you're trying to think of that you can bring to market without putting a second mortgage on your house. You don't have to do those things. You can test it out. There's so many different ways to test your idea, your concept. Even just doing $100, $200 on Facebook ads, just to see if you can find a little bit of a market. Can you scratch the surface? Those types of things, do that first. I'm looking around at what's behind me. I bought almost everything in this room is used. I bought 100 orange chairs. These are school chairs, which are probably about $40 a piece. I found a school that was closing, and I got 100 chairs for $2 a piece. So the whole theater was furnished for $200. So one ticket of one event covered the cost for me to have those chairs paid for. So think about things as dollars in, dollars out. Those $2 chairs, I can upgrade later on as things get crazy, start doing Madison Square Garden numbers. I'll put in leather foam cushion seats in there. But right now, to get started, $200 for seats is a steal. That's the way you have to think. Can you be frugal and efficient and bring something to market that's going to be valuable to your consumer?
If you were to look into the future, Jeff, 5 years from now, what would success look like?
I would love to see this model copied and distributed all throughout the country. Now, I hope that I'm part of that distribution, but this model isn't very different from small clubs, small theaters, comedy clubs. It's really a comedy club model. And if there's a comedy club that's in every town around the country, there could be infinite seat theater, podcast clubs, podcast theaters all around the country, so that I got a slow weekend. I could go to Cleveland. I could go to Baltimore. I could go to Cincinnati. I can go over to Lexington or somewhere, and I could do a little 3-stop tour over the weekend. That's what I see podcasting becoming. Just like bands can go from town to town, just like comedians can go from town to town, podcasters should be able to do and enjoy the same thing. They should be able to go 3 towns in a weekend or travel a little bit, do one stop in DC, and then come back home. But there isn't a network to do that. So 5 years from now, I hope the Paduti Podcast Theater has multiple locations, and there's a whole network of podcast theaters, podcast clubs that pop up that we can all network and build off each other and send clients to and send different podcasters like, hey, have you been up to Cleveland yet? Go check them out. And then they'll send us people down to Pittsburgh. And that's the goal. Can we get to the point where we can elevate podcasting on a smaller, independent level, that mid-scale podcaster, to be able to do tours around the country? And that's the dream.
Do you have any interest in doing like a franchise situation?
I've been approached, and it's something that's been talked about, because one thing that's unique about my model is from start to finish, I'm the only person you're going to deal with, from the idea to the landing page, to ticket sales, to production, to recording, to getting paid at the end. You talk to Jeff. Jeff gets all that done. So is there a software that could bridge all that together in place of Jeff? So if there becomes a demand, I think that's an opportunity. The Duty Podcast software model could be a licensing deal where you would have everything, one-stop shop. You turn it on, you plug in the podcast, you can facilitate everything, and then do the payouts at the end of the night. That is something that's been on the table and discussed in the past, but the volume just isn't there yet to justify building that software. But that tech stack would be very valuable to these types of clubs, these types of theater owners.
What kinds of new creative formats do you think will emerge once live podcasting really takes off?
Some things I've been experimenting with that do really well are these interactive formats. And there's things that you can do on your phone right when you're in the theater or when you're watching at home.
Like a poll or...
Yes. If you remember America's Funniest Videos in the 90s and the early 2000s, they would play a series of videos. At the end of the night, they'd have 3 videos, and you'd see the audience voting on their top 3 favorite videos. We can do that now with our phones, and there's great products that you can plug in to a live event. You can do polls. You can poll the audience. You can do trivia in real time. So now you're watching a show, you're playing trivia on your phone. There's a leaderboard, and you're seeing how other people around you, not just in the theater, but around the country, are playing. So I think using your phone as a second screen in a live event, I'm one of the few places that probably encourage phones during a live event. But those types of things really bring it in, because sometimes we're building word clouds around a topic. All these fun things that you can do, because now you're in the theater, now you have the technology to connect everybody, and you can see what the people around you are thinking about and see what their answers are. And sometimes when there's trivia, it gets kind of competitive. So it's fun to talk a little trash during the event.
Anything that you can do that gets people engaged in a presentation is better, whether it's in a business setting or it's in a live and entertainment setting like what you have. And there's some really easy ways to do that, and free options out there for people should they be interested in them. Because I use them a ton in my consulting work to poll a group about what they're thinking, what their concerns are, find out what their preferences are around something. It does make it very interesting and exciting. Jeff, if you could leave creators around the world with one message about the power of their voice in community, what would it be?
Find something that you love. I was afraid to record for a while. I didn't like the sound of my voice. I didn't like the way I looked on camera. I didn't want to see myself. I didn't want to hear myself. And then I realized, wait a second, other people have bills they're trying to pay. They're trying to get their kids to soccer practice. They're not thinking about me the way I think about me. They don't care about me. They don't care how I look or sound. But for whatever reason, they chose me to entertain them for a half an hour on my trivia show. So my only goal and my only responsibility is to deliver the best podcast I can for that 30 minutes. If you're looking for something to do, if you love something and you're so passionate about it, don't worry about the other things. Your love and passion will carry you. You just be you. Your voice is different than every other voice. And that's the best thing that can happen to you, is that you are different and you are you. Lean into it, embrace it, love it, ride it all the way to the bank.
Absolutely. Putting yourself out on the small branch can be really hard. Putting yourself totally out there. And I love the spirit and care that you're taking to provide a safe place for someone to do something that's totally different. Super compelling. And so, Jeff, where can listeners go to learn more about your work and explore your infinite seat theaters for themselves?
Yeah, very easy. Poduty, PODUTY.com, Poduty.com. I have a website about me if you want to see jeffrevilla.com. Those two sites are the best two starting points. And I'd love to check it out. Send me a message if you have any questions. I talk about this stuff whether or not I'm on a podcast. So email me, use the forms on the website. You'll get an answer from me. I'll be more than happy to just discuss ways that you can do this in your hometown.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else on your mind, Jeff, that you'd like to share today?
I love this. Anybody reach out to me, leave comments, just do something that you're passionate about. You won't regret it. The only thing you regret is not taking that chance. Because like me, it took me 7 years to open this theater. I couldn't take it anymore, not knowing if this was a thing or not. I don't want to leave the earth with this regret of not knowing. You want to do something, take that chance, just enjoy it, enjoy the ride, and have a great life.
Thank you so much. To my listeners, I have a link in the show notes. If you have questions for Jeff, you have ideas that you would love to see on my show, please hit the SpeakPipe link in the show notes to let me know what your questions are, or if you have ideas that you'd love to see me follow through on. Thank you so much for your time today, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been so much fun.
Here are 3 key takeaways for every creator, entrepreneur, and innovator. Rethink monetization from the start. Jeff Revilla emphasizes that you don't need thousands of downloads to generate revenue. Start monetizing through ticket sales, merch, and live experiences, even in small venues, immediately, not after you built a massive audience. Live engagement is greater than digital downloads. A single live attendee can be up to 250 times more valuable than a digital download. Building in-person community and engagement can lead to stronger loyalty, more word of mouth, and greater opportunities for podcasters of all sizes. Own your platform. Creating a theater anywhere, even in the smallest towns or reimagined spaces, empowers creators to control the experience and narrative while also building credibility and deeper audience relationships. If you're ready to disrupt the norms of digital creation and dive deeper into the future of podcasting and live events, let's keep reimagining the art of what's possible. Please share your thoughts in the comments.